Hello everyone and welcome to the video. I would love to hear from you guys, so don't forget to comment your country and time you are watching at. Enjoy the stories. Am I in the wrong for not letting my best friend propose at my birthday party? I, 24F, recently had a big birthday party for my 25th. I don't usually go all out, but this year felt special, so I rented a nice event space, had catering, and invited about 50 friends and family. It was supposed to be a night all about celebrating, dancing, and having fun. A week before the party, my best friend Lily, 24F, asked me for a favor. She wanted to propose to her boyfriend at my party. I was a little thrown off because I assumed she'd want something more personal, but she said she wanted to do it in front of all their mutual friends and thought it would be perfect timing. I was hesitant, but politely told her that I'd rather she didn't. It wasn't because I don't support them, I do. I just didn't want my birthday to turn into an engagement party. I wanted one night to celebrate me, not someone else's relationship milestone. She seemed disappointed but said she understood. I thought that was the end of it. Well, apparently it wasn't. Halfway through the party, Lily tapped her glass and started giving a little speech. I had a bad feeling instantly, and sure enough, she turned to her boyfriend, pulled out a ring, and proposed right there. Everyone cheered, and suddenly the whole party shifted focus. People were congratulating them, taking pictures, and I was just standing there watching my birthday get hijacked. I didn't want to make a scene, so I smiled and congratulated them, but I was furious inside. After the party, I confronted Lily and asked why she went behind my back when I specifically told her no. She got defensive and said she couldn't pass up the moment, and that I was being selfish for not just being happy for her. She even implied that I was overreacting because it's not like your birthday was ruined, but it kind of was. I spent so much time and money planning this night, only for it to turn into her moment instead of mine. Some friends are on my side, but others think I should just let it go, and that love should be celebrated whenever it happens. So aita for not letting her propose at my party. Am I in the wrong for making my friend walk home after she purposely ditched me at a concert? I, 24F, went to a concert last weekend with my friend Jess, 24F. We were both super excited since it was one of our favorite artists and I was the one who got the tickets. I even drove us there, which was about an hour away. The plan was simple: stick together, have fun, and go home together. Well, Jess had other ideas. As soon as we got inside, she spotted a group of random people she knew from college. She immediately ditched me to go hang with them. I figured she'd just say hi and come back, but no, she fully disappeared for over an hour. I texted her multiple times asking where she was, and she kept replying, "I'm with friends. You should come find us." Which, no. We came together, and she just left me alone in a crowded venue. By the time the concert ended, I still hadn't seen her. I texted her, "Meet me at the car, I'm leaving soon." She took forever to reply and finally said, "OMG, I'm still with my friends. Can we get a ride with you?" At this point, I was pissed. She ignored me the whole night, treated me like her personal chauffeur, and expected me to wait for her and her random friends. So I said no. I told her she could find her own way home. She freaked out and started blowing up my phone, saying I was being petty and immature over something so small. She ended up having to get an Uber, which cost her almost $60. Now she and some mutual friends are saying I was too harsh and that I should have just been the bigger person since I had driven anyway. But I don't think it's fair to be used as a ride when she couldn't even spend time with me for one night. Aita for not covering a co-worker's shift when she had babysitter issues. Advice needed. I work 12-hour shifts, mostly nights, but on Saturdays I work day shifts. My boyfriend Ubers to a park near my job, and I drive there after work so he can take over driving since we live 25 miles away, and I'm extra tired from the schedule change. At 5:20 p.m., my co-worker texted me asking if I could cover her shift because her babysitter was having issues. I was busy with my patient and didn't see it until 5:47 p.m. I responded, "I don't think I can. I have stuff to do tomorrow that I can't cancel. I had Disneyland tickets for my little sister." When she didn't reply, I followed up with, "Can you let me know if you're coming in or being covered, please? I have someone picking me up today and don't know if I'll have to cancel with them, too. She replied that she was on her way, so I said, "Okay, thank you, drive safe," and thought that was the end of it. I finish my shift, head to the park where my boyfriend is, and suddenly get hit with this message. "Just an FYI, count me out on ever covering a shift for you. Especially when you lie about getting picked up today when you clearly had your car. I don't appreciate liars. I had an emergency with my kids and their babysitter, yet I still managed to come to work. If you want to show this text to boss or manager, please feel free to. We can also have a conversation with them in person if you feel attacked. I am not coming at you maliciously. At the end of the day, we are co-workers, and we have to be on the same page for the patient. There will be no ill will or tension on my end, but just as you are not available for coverage, I will no longer be available when you need it." I was upset because we've never had issues in the past. However, I tried to be mature. I replied, "Excuse me, I'm not lying. Not that I have to explain myself to you, but on Saturdays my boyfriend Ubers down to pick me up so I don't have to drive home exhausted. I'm not sure where the hostility is coming from." She kept calling me a liar because she saw my car. But here's the thing. This co-worker has been late to shift so many times. I've waited up to 4 hours for her to show up because she had things going on with her kids. I've covered her shifts, swapped shifts, and the only times I've called off in 3 years were during the LA fires, when I wasn't sure when, if I'd have to evacuate, and once when I had food poisoning, and even then, I gave over 12 hours. Notice. So, what would you do in this situation? How should I handle it? Do you think I was in the wrong at all? I personally don't think so, but I'm open to hearing different perspectives. Let me know your thoughts. Aita for not letting my stepdaughter have my grandmother's bracelet. Advice needed. My grandmother left me a bracelet when she passed. It's not super expensive, but it has a lot of sentimental value to me. I wore it at my wedding, and I've kept it safe ever since. My stepdaughter, 16, saw it in my jewelry box a while back and said it was so pretty. I told her it belonged to my grandma, and she asked if she could have it when she turns 18. I kind of laughed it off and said, "We'll see." That was months ago. Well, last week she brought it up again, but this time she told me she already considers it hers. I told her I never said I would give it to her, and it was important to me. She got upset and said I should want to pass it down to her because she's basically my daughter. I told her I love her, but this is one of the few things I have left of my grandmother, and I don't want to give it away. She stormed off, later told my husband I was treating her like she wasn't family, and now he's on her side too. He says it wouldn't hurt me to let her have it, and that it would mean a lot to her. I told him it means a lot to me, and I don't understand why she feels entitled to it. Now they're both giving me the cold shoulder, and I feel like I'm going crazy. Aita. Aita for leaving my boyfriend after finding a woman in our bed. So, I, 26F, am going on a trip to London with my sister today. I've been staying with her since yesterday because she lives close to the airport. I realized I forgot my passport. At my apartment, where my boyfriend, 27M, and I live together, and I had time to go back and get it, so I did. I texted him this morning to let him know I was coming back to get my passport, but he didn't respond. When I got there, he looked really antsy and suspicious. I went into our bedroom and found a woman I don't recognize lying in our bed, fully clothed. I just went on autopilot, grabbed my passport, told him, "We're over," and left. Now, my boyfriend is blowing up my phone saying that the woman is his longtime friend and that she's a lesbian who just needed a place to crash for the night. I don't believe him because he never mentioned anything about her staying over while I was gone, and the whole situation feels off. He's saying I'm making a huge mistake and that he's telling the truth, but honestly, I'm just really hurt and confused. He's begging for me to hear him out and is apologizing, but this whole situation is not right. So, A tier for leaving him? Should I believe his explanation, or is my gut telling me the truth? We just signed the lease 2 months ago and I'm literally leaving the country today, so it's a horrible and stressful situation. Aita for humiliating my sister's fiancé at a family gathering after what he did to her. My sister, 28F, has been with her fiancé, 32M, for 3 years. She's always been the more reserved, quiet type, while he's loud, extroverted, and sometimes a little over the top. We tolerated him, but recently he crossed a serious line. A few weeks ago, my sister came to me in tears because her fiancé had pranked her in front of his friends by pretending to propose in an elaborate setup, only to laugh in her face and say, "Just kidding, babe, you really thought I was serious." His friends all laughed while she stood there humiliated. She didn't break up with him, which I think she should have, but she was heartbroken. He later gave her some half-hearted excuse about how he actually had a proposal planned soon, and this was just a joke gone wrong. Fast forward to this past weekend at our parents' house. We were having a big family dinner, and he was there acting like nothing happened. While chatting, someone asked when they were getting married, and before my sister could answer, he smirked and said, "Guess she'll just have to wait and see." Huh? That was it for me. I smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, is this like how she had to wait for that hilarious fake proposal in front of all your friends? That was so funny, right? Let's all have a good laugh about it now." The table went dead. Silent. My sister looked mortified, but my parents looked pissed at him. He stammered something about it being a joke, but my dad straight up told him, "That's not a joke, that's cruelty." He left shortly after, and now my sister is mad at me for embarrassing him and making things worse. I told her he embarrassed her first and deserved to be called out. My parents are backing me, but my sister says I've ruined things for her. Aita. Update: Aita for refusing to let my mother-in-law hold my baby after she told my husband to get a paternity test. I removed the post by mistake. The story. 1. I, 28F, gave birth to my first child, a beautiful baby girl, 3 weeks ago. My husband, 30 May, and I have been over the moon, but his mother has been causing non-stop drama. She never liked me. From the start, she made snide comments about how I trapped her son, even though we've been happily married for 4 years. When I got pregnant, she constantly joked about how the baby might not be his. I brushed it off as her usual passive-aggressive behavior, until I found out she took it way further. 2 days after I gave birth, my husband got a text from his mom saying, "You should get a DNA test. You never know these days." I was devastated when I saw it. My husband was furious and told her off, saying he had zero doubts about me and that her comment was disgusting. She tried to backtrack, saying she was just looking out for him. Now she wants to come over and meet the baby. But I told my husband that she will not be holding our daughter. If she wants to question whether my child is even her grandchild, then she doesn't get the privilege of bonding with her. My husband understands why I'm upset, but he thinks we should let her come just once so she doesn't play the victim with the rest of the family. Now she's crying to everyone, saying I'm keeping her granddaughter from her and that I'm punishing her over a harmless question. Some family members think I'm being dramatic and should be the bigger person. But why should I let someone who disrespected me and my child hold her like nothing happened? ETA 4. Refusing to let her hold my baby? Update. Well, I wish I could say things got better, but Emiel made sure that didn't happen. After my husband told her off, I thought she'd at least try to apologize, but instead, she doubled down. She started calling my husband, telling him I was turning him against his own mother, and that I was overreacting to a simple question. She even pulled the classic victim act, crying to the rest of the family about how I was keeping her grandbaby from her. Then things took a ridiculous turn. I found out from my SIL that Mill was actually trying to get a DNA test done behind our backs. Apparently, she was hoping to get a strand of my baby's hair or some spit to confirm the truth. When my SIL told me I was absolutely done, I told my husband that until she apologizes, not a fake "I'm sorry you're mad" apology, but a real one, she is not welcome around me or my daughter. Thankfully, my husband backed me up 100%. He told his mother that if she can't respect his wife and child, then she doesn't deserve to be part of our lives. Miel lost it. She went full drama mode, telling everyone I was tearing the family apart, and that she might never recover from this heartbreak. At this point, I don't even care. She disrespected me, she disrespected my marriage, and she disrespected my child. Actions have consequences. So yeah, Miel still hasn't met the baby, and unless she does some serious apologizing and self-reflection, she won't be anytime soon. Ita, hey Ita, If I don't provide the code my boss needs after they fired me, I got fired, laid off 3 months ago. They made it look like a layoff because they wanted someone with more expertise than a senior manager, more like a director level, and there was nothing I could do. I knew that was a BS excuse as they hired a junior level who was trained to fill my position. My last 2 weeks, my boss didn't even ask for anything. He avoided any communication and directed me to HR if I wanted communication. No exit or offboarding was done, as he considered himself overqualified to do an offboarding with me. Fast forward 3 months after my last day, I receive a message from him trying to log into one of the systems, and because of the 2-step verification, the second step comes to my phone. He tried like 2 days and then reached out to me like nothing and wanted me to provide the code. I ignored it completely, but now I am wondering if I should have given the code to him. Edit, I did say system, but it is not a system where you have a license. It's more like a website, where I created an account to pay the states quarterly. Anyone from my company can create a new account if they provide EIN and some security questions. He is just trying to use my username and password. We got an offer on a house. Our friends asked if they can move in, advice needed. My husband and I received the notice that our offer was accepted. We're super excited and started sharing the news with our close friends and family. One of our friends, who is going back to school, asked, since the timing works out, can him and his wife come live with us during this time? My gut reaction was to say no because we haven't even lived in the house and we'd immediately have to share the space with them. They also have not yet shared any specific plans of paying rent, helping with groceries, etc. I would feel like a huge asshole telling them no and having that uncomfortable confrontation, but something tells me as first-time homeowners, we'd be frustrated if we immediately let them move in when we haven't settled in ourselves. Just looking for others' opinions on the situation. Am I in the wrong for telling my mum I won't update her about my life, telling people I'm married, advice needed? A little backstory before I explain. My mum, 54, has never let me keep things to myself and always announces it. For example, I went on vacation, she acted like it was a bad thing and posted on FB how I was kidnapped and forced to go to the Middle East, even though that was far from the truth. And she knew in advance of me going on vacation in Tunisia, not in the Middle East. Also, any rhyme I had surgery or medical procedures she would write on FB or tell people, even though I didn't want people knowing or went to the doctors. She would make me tell my doctor things I did personally that wasn't medical related, even when I wanted to private. So anyways, I 20F got married 6 months ago. Eloped. I am also in low to minimum contact with my mom. I wanting to tell my family about it, but I knew my mom would react poorly because she wasn't there. I am currently visiting my in-laws and texted my mom, and I told her I ended up getting text from family members saying my mom told them I was upset, not because I didn't want them to know. I just wanted to tell them myself and she ruined it. I forget. She would do this. I then told her due to her actions, I won't be updating her again or the family. I feel like the asshole due to punishing not just my mother, but also my father, who I get along with more. But if I tell him, he would tell my mum, and then everyone else will know before I get a chance to tell others. Am I the asshole? Am I in the wrong for refusing to give my grandparents my late husband's life insurance payout? My 35F husband passed away suddenly last year, leaving me and our 2 kids, 6M, 4F, completely heartbroken. He had a life insurance policy that paid out a significant sum, and while it doesn't make up for our loss, it has given us financial security. A few months ago, my in-laws approached me with a request. They want me to give a portion of the money to my late husband's grandparents, his mom's parents. Their reasoning is that they are struggling financially, and my husband would have wanted to help them. I do feel bad for them, but the thing is that they never really had a strong relationship with us. They didn't even come to our wedding, claiming it was too far, even though they travel for vacations all the time. They never made much effort to be in our children's lives either. And now they suddenly think they're entitled to the money my husband left for his family, which, in my mind, means our kids and me. My mill has been calling me selfish, saying they're elderly and struggling, and that I should honor my husband's memory by helping them. But I feel like this money was meant for our children's future. It's not like him hoarding it. I've set up college funds and am ensuring we're stable. Am I in the wrong? Am I in the ring for rejecting my mom and refusing to forgive her and telling her she chose to be there for her affair partner's kids over her own, so she needs to deal with it now? I'm pretty frustrated right now, but I want to know if people think I'm being unfair. 2 years ago, my dad, my brother, 13 mem, and I, 16 mem, found out mom was having an affair. It shouldn't have surprised any of us. For over 2 years, she was always busy and let us down so many times. She was so involved before, but she stopped showing up and supporting me when I was competing in swimming, and she stopped asking about it. She flaked on me every time I wanted to do our record store browse, which we did since I was 5, and she never said no before. She dropped. The cooking classes she did with my brother and didn't show up for his talent shows. He's a musician. I have asthma, and she stopped answering calls from the school nurse to pick me up. My dad had to leave work a bunch of times, and it pissed him off because mom was a sachem and I was one of her reasons. But she didn't even take that seriously. It turned out when she was busy doing stuff, it meant she was busy cheating or playing mom to the guy's 2 kids. She was bonding with them and filling in for the mom they didn't have. She put them before her own kids, not just the guy she cheated with, but those kids too. The whole thing makes me so angry. When we found out, I thought she was disgusting for all of it. She didn't just cheat on Dad, but she was picking the guy's kids over her own. She prioritized her affair and the children the affair partner had. Mom denied that she did it, and she told me and my brother she hadn't cheated on us, and she told us we shouldn't hate her or pull away from her when the adult business, meaning her marriage, wasn't our business. When my parents first started their divorce, we were ordered by a judge to stay with Mom 50% of the time. I hated it. She tried to integrate us with the guy and his kids, but I made it clear I'd never accept them. Mom asked us to give them a chance, and she forced us all to hang out as if we were some kind of family, which is a fucking joke. By the time the divorce was over, the judge said I didn't need to see her that much, and I only need to go 1 weekend a month. And as of last month, the judge said I still need to go once a month. And being 16 doesn't mean I get to stop going like I want. For the past year, my mom has started to realize how much I hate her now, and she tries to reach out and fix it. I reject her every time, and I have called her names and told her to stay away from me. I told her she's gross and I want nothing to do with her. Her affair partner, who she's now married to, tried to berate me for talking to her like that, and I told him he's nothing to me, so why would I care about his opinion? He wants me and my brother to never go to the house because we make his kids feel bad by refusing to spend time with them and avoiding them. So Mom tried to talk to me, and she begged me to forgive her, and she told me she'd do anything. I told her it'll never happen. I said she chose another person's kids over us, and we remembered that. I told her she was with those random-ass children when I needed her. She left me in school with breathing issues so she could play mommy to another woman's kids. I told her she fucking destroyed our family, broke Dad's heart, and failed as a mother when she was screwing around, and she needed to accept her choices cost her us. Mom said she wanted to make it up, and I said, unless she took it all back and didn't put those kids first, then she couldn't. She broke down and told me I wasn't being fair, and she was a good mother, for a lot longer than she was a slightly absent one. The topic came up in therapy, and my therapist pushed me to forgive and reconcile with my mom. I don't really like her, because she's really pushy about that stuff, and has spent all the time we've been in these sessions telling me I only have one mum, and to remember the good. Dad wanted me to change therapist, but Mom blocked it, because she's hoping this lady will make me have a change of heart. But the therapist is really pressing it, and I know she's a professional. I just don't want the stuff she mentions about having a family and accepting Mom for who she is and all that crap. Am I in the ring? My husband got me a vacuum for my 50th, title says it all. Turned 50 yesterday. Husband, 53M, woke me up, told me he had a surprise for me downstairs. I go downstairs and see a vacuum, not even wrapped, mind you. He said he thought I'd like a new one since the current one doesn't have the ability to turn off the brush roller when using on hard floors. I never asked for a new one. It works fine. That was my birthday, not even a lunch or dinner out. He mentioned a month ago about doing something special and going on a trip. I asked about that, and he said he figured I'd tell him when and where I wanted to go. He never asked where, but did mention several times over the past month he had a surprise for me. Apparently, it was a fucking vacuum. We've been married 17 years, AITA for hoping or expecting that maybe he could have planned and surprised me with something. Anything. Something more than an Amazon next day delivery vacuum? When he turned 50, I took him to Hawaii. Maybe I'm just being hypersensitive. Turning 50 has been a hard number for me. Parents and grandparents all passed in that decade. Eat it. Thank you to the numerous people who reported my post to Reddit Crisis Cares. Not necessary. And to the mean trolls saying to get a life, no one cares, don't be a gold digger, or it's the thought that counts. I wish you nothing but success and prosperity in life. Peace. Edit 2. It's a Eureka Power Speed Canister Vacuum. Am I in the wrong for telling my husband that you don't lose weight magically after going to the gym? My husband, M33, and I, F24, have been married 2 years, and we have a 16-week-old daughter. Prior to my pregnancy, I was active, but not as active as my husband. He is big into fitness and stuff, and I really am not. I just worked out because my doctor told me to, LOL. I only ran maybe twice a week and had a Pilates class every Sunday. I weighed 120 lbs before pregnancy. During pregnancy, I gained 40, lost 20 right off the bat after having my daughter, which my doctor said it normal through my baby herself, fluid, placenta, all that. And I have been working on losing the last 20. While my body looks different, I don't really care as I'm just glad my baby is so healthy and perfect. However, my husband started mentioning my weight at 2 weeks postpartum. Literally, he would say it and frame it in a way that was a compliment, but it wasn't. Oh, you look so good. You look like a mommy now. Or, I wouldn't guess. It was a whole 20 lbs, maybe just 10 or so. I just rolled my eyes and told him to stop. Honestly, I didn't care. Those comments happened maybe twice a week, so it was easy to forget. My doctor told me to wait 12 weeks before returning to strenuous exercise, so I did. But the moment I hit 12 weeks, my husband was asking me to come to the gym with him, literally all the time. He was badgering me almost. I did it to make him happy, and he certainly was happy. I will admit it felt good to have some time to myself, and I didn't mind going at all. But now it's been another 4 weeks since then, and I haven't lost any weight but like 2.5 lbs. My husband seems to think this is because I snack too much, and he told me that. I told him I have to. I am breastfeeding, so that started an argument. He told me that I should go back to Pilates to tighten my tummy again. I told him I'd rather die than do that right now, TBH. He told me, fine then, at least try harder. I told him I'm trying my absolute fucking hardest, and you don't just magically lose weight in the gym. He wholeheartedly disagrees with that, and went on a tangent about how he loves me and my body for carrying our baby, but he wants me to still take care of myself for my health. Whatever. I mean, I get that sentiment. A lot of my postpartum appointments centered around my health as well, but it more things like recovering, sleeping and eating enough, not working out. So am I in the wrong here? Am I in the wrong for embarrassing my husband's co-worker, for embarrassing me and my husband? A few months ago, after many years of trying to conceive, my husband, 32M, and I, 33F, had a gorgeous, healthy baby boy. My husband and I are black, which is pertinent to this story. We were over the moon, and family, friends and co-workers had also been excited for us. Right after I delivered, my husband emailed a birth announcement with a photo of our son to everyone in his office. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and my husband came home fuming after his first day back at work. One of his co-workers informed him that another guy in the office, a new young employee my husband barely knew, had been telling everyone willing to listen that my husband couldn't be our son's father because that baby is too light to be his, and its hair is too long and straight. That's a white man's baby, or an Asian's. This guy proceeded to tell everyone what a sucker my husband was, and that his excitement over finally becoming a dad was blinding him to the reality that he had been cheated on and his wife impregnated by another man. Side note for anyone who's still unaware, in 2025, black babies in general are fairly pale as newborns, and their skin will darken over the first few weeks. Hair changes to a curlier pattern are usually gradual as well. Our son was no exception and is now my hub's mini-me. My husband said he had immediately confronted and questioned the guy, who completely denied saying anything inappropriate, and claimed he only said as a joke, the baby was too cute to be my husband's. But others in the office confirmed the first co-worker's account. Not only that, the guy had tried to parlay his superior perception skills into some weird form of workplace clout. Fortunately, the guy got moved to a different shift that same week, so my husband didn't have to see him again. That is, until a company event this past weekend. Families were invited, and we took our son. And who should come and insert himself into our group, as we were chatting with the boss but brown-noser McMouth. He interrupted our conversation and introduced himself to the boss, shaking his hand. When I realized who he was, my anger came flooding back, and I said, "I don't believe we've met. But aren't you the guy who went around telling everyone in the office I must have cheated on my husband with a white or Asian man, and this couldn't be his son?" The guy went red and silent. Boss said to him, "See me in my office first thing Monday," and walked away. I think someone's fired. My husband said I went too far because it was already over and done with. I said it wasn't done for me until I'd had my say, and I was the one being defamed, not him. Am I the asshole? Aita for saying no when my parents asked to move in with us. I never imagined that a simple conversation about living arrangements would turn into a full-blown family battle. Yet here I am, caught between my deep-rooted love for my parents and the equally deep need to preserve the safe space that my partner Elena and I have built over the last 3 years. Elena and I have always prided ourselves on our independence. After years of dating, we finally moved in together in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the quieter side of town, a place where we could nurture our relationship without the constant interference of the outside world. We had curated our sanctuary meticulously. Evenings spent cooking together, quiet weekends with our favorite books and movies, and the simple pleasure of coming home to a space that was entirely ours. This was our refuge, and the idea of sharing it with anyone else, even if they were my parents, felt like a threat to that delicate balance. It all started innocuously enough. My parents, Martha and Richard, had always been an integral part of my life. Their occasional unannounced visits and phone calls were something I'd grown to expect. They were loving, if a bit overbearing, and their concern for my happiness had, until recently, been a source of comfort. But as they edged toward retirement, their conversations turned more frequent, their visits longer, and their requests for help more insistent. One Friday evening, as Elena and I were finishing dinner, I received a phone call from my mother. Her voice, tinged with excitement, announced, "John, your father and I have been talking and we've decided it's time we moved in with you and Elena. We can help out around the house and we'd finally be closer as a family." I paused, fork midway to my mouth, unsure if I'd misheard her. "Mom, what do you mean move in?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. There was a brief silence before she continued. "We miss you, and honestly, it's getting lonely. Here, we'd love to be near our son, and we know you two wouldn't mind a little extra help, would you?" I put the phone down, my heart pounding. I could already hear Elena's concerned voice behind me. I knew her well enough to understand that while she loved my parents, she cherished our intimate, undisturbed evenings far too much to welcome a sudden change. I spent the next few days stewing over the idea. I wasn't completely opposed to helping my parents. After all, they had given me everything, but the thought of sharing our apartment felt like compromising on the life we had worked so hard to create. The following weekend, I invited my parents over for a planned discussion. I wanted to be respectful, to explain our perspective without hurting their feelings. Over coffee in our modest living room, I broached the subject. "Mom, Dad, I've been thinking about your proposal. Eleanor and I appreciate your offer, and we love you both dearly. But our apartment, it's our home. We need a space where we can have privacy, a place that's just ours." Richard leaned forward, his eyes searching mine. "John, you know we're not asking to take over your home. We're just looking for a little extra company. We can help with the chores and you won't have to worry about a thing. Besides, isn't family meant to be together?" I swallowed hard, choosing my words carefully. "I understand that, Dad. But living together isn't just about physical proximity. It's about lifestyles. Elena and I have routines that we cherish, and our space is designed for that. We've worked hard to build a life where we can relax and recharge. I'm worried that having you two here might change that dynamic. My mother's brow furrowed as she interjected, "But John, we're your parents. We always share everything with you, even when you're grown up. This is just the next chapter in our lives. We can't help feeling left out." Eleanor, who had been quietly observing from the sofa, finally spoke up. "We're not trying to shut you out," she said softly. "It's just that we need to maintain a certain environment in our home. We've seen how difficult it can be when personal space gets compromised. We want to be there for you in every other way, but living together might not be the best solution for any of us." The conversation quickly turned from tentative discussion to a debate. My parents' voices grew louder as they expressed their disappointment and confusion. They argued that we were being selfish, that family should always be a priority. I tried to explain that love didn't necessarily mean sacrificing our individuality, but the more I spoke, the more entrenched their positions became. Later that night, after my parents had left and the echoes of their words still reverberated through our empty living room, I sat with Elena in the dim light of our kitchen. "Did I do the right thing?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to hurt them, but I also can't imagine our home if it's no longer just ours." Elena reached for my hand, her eyes soft yet resolute. "John, sometimes doing what's best for our future means making tough choices today. You're not cutting them off. You're setting a boundary. And boundaries are healthy. We can still visit them, call them, and even help out when they need it. But our home, it has to remain a sanctuary for us." Her words were comforting. But I couldn't shake the nagging guilt that I was about to be labeled the ungrateful son. The next morning, I decided to document everything on our aita. I drafted a post detailing the conversation, my reasoning, and the aftermath. My title read, "Aita for refusing to let my parents move in with my partner and me." I explained that while I loved my parents and valued their role in my life, our home was a sacred space that Elena and I had painstakingly built. I questioned whether I was being overly harsh or if I was simply enforcing necessary boundaries. As the post went live, I spent the rest of the day on edge, refreshing the thread every few minutes. The responses were a whirlwind of opinions. Some commenters were unequivocal in their support, applauding me for setting healthy boundaries. Others were more critical, suggesting that I was being selfish and ungrateful, accusing me of rejecting family for the sake of convenience. One comment in particular struck a nerve. "Sometimes the hardest part of loving family is accepting that you can't change their expectations. It sounds like you're trying to protect your own peace of mind, NTA." I read it over and over, feeling a mix of validation and heartache. I knew that this was just the beginning of a long, painful conversation, not just online, but with my family. As I lay awake that night, replaying every word of the discussion in my head, I couldn't help but wonder if there was a middle ground I'd missed. Had I been too blunt? Could I have found a compromise that honored both my parents' need for closeness and our need for personal space? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that some battles aren't as clear-cut as they seem. I closed my eyes, hoping that time would bring clarity. In the silence of the night, I knew one thing for certain. I was caught between the unconditional love for my parents and the equally unconditional love for the life Elena and I had built. And while the verdict on our aita might sway one way or another, the real challenge lay ahead, finding a way to bridge the gap between old expectations and new realities. I've always believed that love should stand tall against ignorance, but last weekend, everything came crashing down in a way I never imagined possible. My wife, Fa, is 32, originally from Thailand, and the light of my life. We met when she was studying in the States, and our connection was instant, so intense that it seemed to defy the odds. 5 years of marriage have passed, each year filled with her kindness, intelligence, and a work ethic that leaves me in awe. Yet, from day one, my parents have harbored a cold prejudice toward her. Their dismissive, snide remarks about her supposedly being a gold digger or only interested in me for a green card had always simmered in the background, hidden behind forced smiles and empty reassurances from me. That fateful evening began like any other family dinner at my parents' house. I had been hopeful, perhaps naive, that the decades of unspoken tension might finally ease. We gathered around the dining table, the air thick with a mix of nostalgia and awkward pleasantries. At first, conversation flowed about trivial matters. My father's latest golf mishap, my mother's plans for her garden, even my brother's recent job change. I sat beside Fa, silently savoring the rare moments when she'd smile at the genuine small talk. I believed that maybe, just maybe, things would be different this time. But the calm was shattered when the conversation took a dark turn. Halfway through dinner, after a long, uncomfortable pause, my father leaned in with a smirk that sent a chill through the room. "So far," he drawled, his tone dripping with mock curiosity. "Now that you've been married for 5 years, do you finally get to keep your green card?" His words sliced through the din, and a heavy silence descended. My mother, eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and derision, added, "I guess you don't have to be on your best behavior anymore, huh?" Fa's face blanched in an instant. I could see the hurt welling up behind her eyes, hurt that spoke of a lifetime of being judged solely on her background rather than her merits. I felt a surge of anger and disbelief. How could they reduce the incredible woman I loved to a political document? I tried to diffuse the situation, laughing awkwardly and interjecting, "Dad, that's not funny. Fa's a brilliant, independent woman." But my words were cut short by another dismissive laugh from my father. "This is just banter, son," he said, shrugging off my protest as if it were nothing more than harmless teasing. "We're just making sure you didn't get taken for a ride." My mother nodded in agreement, her tone light as if discussing the weather. But to me, every syllable felt like a fresh wound. I had endured these prejudiced jabs over the years, always with the hope that they were mere misguided attempts at humor. Tonight, though, the mask had slipped entirely. In that moment, something within me snapped. I could no longer stand by as my wife, the person who has given me nothing but love and support, was belittled by those I was supposed to respect. I said, "That's enough." My voice, trembling with a mix of fury and sorrow, rang out across the table. "Fa deserves respect, not these degrading comments." My father's eyes narrowed. "Oh, come on, John. Don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke." "But it isn't," I shot back. "Every time you make those remarks, you tear down the person I love. I'm done pretending everything's okay." My brother tried to intervene. "Maybe we should all just calm down. This isn't worth ruining the night." But his words fell flat in the charged atmosphere. I could see in Fa's eyes the silent question, do they really see me that way? And I couldn't risk her dignity any longer. I stood up abruptly. The clatter of cutlery and the murmur of shocked voices filled the space as I reached for Fa's hand. "We're leaving," I declared. Without waiting for a response or an apology that I knew wouldn't come, I led her out the door, away from the suffocating judgment of that dining room. Outside, in the cool night air, we sat in my car. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the soft hum of the engine and our ragged breaths. Fa finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "John, do they really think I'm just here for a green card? Do they really believe I'm only after your money?" Her eyes were glistening with unshed tears, and my heart broke at the thought that my parents had reduced her to nothing more than a stereotype. I didn't have an answer. All I could do was hold her hand tightly, silently vowing that I would never allow such cruelty to diminish her spirit again. Later that night, as I sat alone in my apartment trying to process the events of the evening, a storm of emotions raged inside me. I opened my laptop and navigated to our aita, where I'd already drafted a post detailing the incident. In my post, I recounted every hurtful word, every dismissive gesture, and asked the community, am I the asshole for walking out that night, or was I right to stand up for my wife? The responses poured in, a deluge of opinions that ranged from unwavering support to calls for more measured dialogue. One comment in particular struck a chord. Sometimes standing up for those you love means making hard choices, even if it means breaking family tradition. Yet as I read through every upvote and downvote, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd acted rashly. Was there a better way to handle such deeply ingrained prejudice? Could I have found a time to address these issues more calmly, perhaps after the dinner was over? As dawn crept in the window, I found no simple answers. I replayed every moment in my head. The way my father's eyes gleamed with self-satisfaction, my mother's polite but biting laughter, and Far's quiet devastation. I recalled earlier times, small moments when they had let slip a derogatory remark or an offhand comment that belittled her origins. I dismissed them as isolated incidents, thinking they'd eventually fade away. But tonight had made it all too clear. These weren't isolated. It was a pattern of ignorance and disrespect that needed to be confronted. I began to write in my journal, trying to capture the swirl of emotions and thoughts that wouldn't let me rest. I wrote about how I had tried for years to make them see Far for the incredible person she is, and how each attempt only seemed to drive a wedge deeper between us. I questioned whether loyalty to family should ever come at the expense of the ones we love most. In those quiet, solitary moments, I realized that while my parents' opinions had long held sway over me, it was time to redefine where my true loyalty lay. Now I'm left to wonder, did I overreact in the heat of the moment, or was I right to draw a hard line against their prejudice? I stand by my decision to protect Far's dignity, but I also worry about the lasting repercussions for our family ties. I'm conflicted, and that's why I'm turning to you, Aita. Am I the asshole for storming out of that family dinner, or was I justified in drawing the line when my wife was being disrespected?